Welcome, everyone, to our latest installment of In My Shoes, honoring those who have served our country and our upcoming Veterans Day on November 11th, 2022. My name is Myrna Maysonet. For those who do not know me, I'm a partner and the firm's Chief Diversity Officer. I am also a Navy veteran, having served both as an enlisted and officer in the United States Navy. GM is very proud of its diverse workforce, and one of the things that we love is the amount of veterans who work here. I want to give a shout out to all our veterans and thank them for their service. We're going to be interviewing some of them, but I want to give a shout out for those who are not here today. James Rout, Marine; Bill Riley, Navy; Steve Burnell, Navy; Has Haddock, Army; Kim Mountcastle, Army; and my fellow panelists today, Julie Moeller, Air Force; and Joseph Mierzejewski, and I know I butcher your name, Air Force. Welcome you both. It's an honor to have you here as part of the panel. We are going to discuss our background in the military, which join us as brothers and sisters. So Julie and Joe, if you can share with us a little bit of your background in your military service.
Sure. Hi, it's Julie Moeller. I enlisted in the Air Force about a year after high school in 1996. I'm from a very small Texas town, and I was looking for a means to pay for college and to get out of said small town. And my dad was in the Air Force when I was born, although he left the Air Force shortly after I was born. So I had military history, and I decided that enlisting in the Air Force was the best way for me to get money for school and grow up a little and learn some structure. I did that and enlisted in 1996 and was in the Air Force from 1996 to 2000.
And what was your rank and job?
So I went in as an E2 because I did have some college from high school in the year in between when I graduated high school. And when I joined the Air Force about a year afterward, I went in as an E2. I left as an E4. Pretty difficult to get beyond E4 when you're doing just a 4-year enlistment in the Air Force. And I worked in logistics. I was a supply management journeyman, which just meant, for me anyway, that I ordered aircraft parts for B-52s, and I was stationed in Shreveport, Louisiana, Bossier City at Barksdale Air Force Base, working for the 96th Bomb Squadron.
Excellent. How about you, Joe?
I joined the Air Force in 1964, right out of high school. My dad was in the Air Force during World War II. So that was always in the back of my mind that I would join the Air Force. And of course, back in those days, we had the draft to worry about. So I just thought that joining the Air Force would be the best thing for me. It was one of the best things I've ever done in my life, really. It gives you a good background for, things that you should do in life, a good work ethic. I was my first station was in Panama. I was there for 18 months, and I was a communications center specialist. And we just relayed messages. That was my part, just relayed messages from South America onto the United States. And then after Panama, I was stationed in England at RAF Croughton, and I was there for 2 years. And that was really great duty. And I worked in the weather intercept division there, and we intercepted weather bulletins from Russia and forwarded them on to different locations in the United States. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a great thing for anybody to go through. It teaches you a lot of discipline.
Great. And that actually leads me to the next question, which is actually, you guys both touched on it a little bit. I also joined for financial reasons. I actually graduated early from high school and went straight to college, and I was 17, and I have finished my first year of college, and my parents got divorced and I didn't have money. So the military for me was a way of achieving a goal that I couldn't have achieved otherwise. But I was very mature. And the funny thing is how I didn't mean to join in. All I did was ask for a ride. I was in college and I asked a friend of mine and my cousin to give me a ride. And they said, sure, I'm going to give you a ride, but we have to stop at the recruiter. And the recruiter was for the Air Force. So we get there and the guy is not there. And then we looked at the Army and the Navy, and then they decide we're just going to go with the Navy. We go in there, and my cousin and my best friend are scheduled. Well, they take them, and the guy, the recruiter, says to me, hey, why don't you take the test? No big deal. Nothing bad can happen. And what it ended up happening is I was the only one that passed. They failed. And that was on Wednesday. And on a Sunday, I was already on my way to the U.S. Naval Office base here in Orlando, Florida. And it completely changed my life. And it's like what you guys both said. You know, I was very immature. I didn't know what was going on. And, you know, while I was smart, I lacked some other things. And being in the military gave me purpose. It taught me discipline. It taught me being part of the teamwork and the importance of things. And I wanted to see if you guys could share with us, how did joining the military and being in the military impacted your life?
Sure. And much like you, I graduated high school and never really had to study and did very well. So I was smart, but I didn't have any real discipline. And when I started college, the community college right after high school, you couldn't really just, coast by. You had to study, you had to have structure. And I really didn't know how to do that. So I felt like after the end of that first year, I was sort of flailing about, and I had wanted to join the Air Force right out of high school, but got talked out of it. So that year was, sort of a gap year, so to speak, on accident. So when I did join, I very much, was ready to go. I had a little bit more time in between when I actually enlisted with the recruiter, who, to touch on the subject you mentioned earlier, did lie about certain aspects of basic training. I left for basic training in November of 1996, and that was in San Antonio, which wasn't that far from where I was from, only about a little over an hour actually, where I am from. It taught me all of the things that you mentioned: discipline, gave me a sense of purpose, really a sense of teamwork for the first time, because I didn't really play sports or anything like that when I was in school. And so I got that aspect out of being a part of, a military squadron. And then although I was stationed permanently at Barksdale the whole time, I was deployed on a short notice deployment also to England in the spring of 1999 for Operation Allied Force. And we were at a contingency base, RA at Fairford. It was an intense time where I worked extremely long hours for most of the time, but I also was afforded the opportunity to see some of the beautiful English countryside. So, that's something I never would have been able to afford to do at that time. And it was a really great experience.
Great. That's lovely to hear. For those people who are not in the military, we always joke around, everybody's in the military, and the first question that you always ask is, hey, how badly did your recruiter lie to you? Because they promise you all kinds of stuff, and when you get there, you're like, oh, no, this is not like that. But Joe, if you can share with us how joining the service impacted your life.
Well, I was an only child, and my parents were sort of strict. I always did what I was told. I didn't argue or anything. I was sort of a loner in school. Like I say, I was always determined to join the military, and especially the Air Force, when I graduated. So going in, I had the attitude that I'm there to follow orders and to do what they want. And it didn't really upset me that much that I was given orders to do this or to do that. Some of it was a little ridiculous, you think, but when they come and get you out of bed at midnight and take all your sheets and stuff off, you get through that. And then after that, it was really basically just a regular job. You put your time in and you go and you follow orders. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great thing for anybody to learn the chain of command, the discipline that you have. Of course, the travel, I got to go to Panama, which I would have never even thought of going. I was there for 18 months, right after they had their little revolution in the 60s. And then we went to, or I went to England, and I was there for almost 2 years, and that was really great duty. But I really, think it's a great thing, and I feel badly that not more people take advantage of it these days, because I really think it's a great thing to go through.
Different generations. Joe, joined in the 60s. I actually joined in the mid 80s, and Julie joined in the 90s, later 90s. And we share a lot of things in common. Travel was one of the opportunities. In the Navy, I was assigned to a ship, a submarine tender, which helped out the submarine. I was actually, when I was an enlisted, I was a torpedo man, and which was funny. There was not that many females, but I ended up working on something called the Moss unit, which were if a submarine attacked you, you send the Moss unit who would sound like the submarine, and they were decoys. And it was super interesting things, that I would have never learned otherwise. Favorite memories, and I want to ask you about that, guys, is the friendships that you made. Because it was like a job, but it wasn't, because you were on duty and you were serving long hours. And I remember that we were offloading weapons at 3:00 in the morning when it was 20 degrees outside. And the only way that, kept you sane was talking and laughing with the friends that you made that are longtime friends that are still sometimes part of, and still in your life, but solidify that understanding that you have to live in the present, because the military kind of teaches you, you were 2 years in one station and then you were gone. So you kind of went into different places and you had to fit in, it taught you that. So I wanted to ask you guys if you can share with us your favorite memories from the service.
Well, to touch on the basic training story that Joe mentioned, whenever this is something the recruiters definitely don't tell you. I mean, obviously, you're going to be marching and exercising and be subject to inspections. But what they don't tell you is that you're completely exhausted by the end of your very long day. And they play taps whenever you lay down to go to sleep. And I would be asleep before taps would even be done. But in the middle of the night, they would have these inspections, and they would come in and they'd turn all the lights on and pick up the end of your bed and let it drop on the floor and go through all your neatly put together things to try to figure out how you didn't tie your laundry bag right or fold your socks right. And it was so difficult to get all that stuff right that at least the girls in my squadron, we basically would have 2 pairs of socks that we would rotate out of our laundry bag in the laundry, and the rest would just stay neatly folded in there because it was so hard to get everything right. And they were so picky about everything. But I think, it taught me in a way to be a lawyer, in that I went into basic training knowing that it was going to be difficult in those ways, maybe not quite that extreme, but I viewed it from the outset as it's just a game. It doesn't mean anything. It's not personal. It's what they're doing is part of trying to toughen you up and get you ready to go out and take commands from your senior non-enlisted and your officers. I think the girls in my squadron who kept that mentality, because a lot of people fell out and got out, before basic training was even over, fared a lot better. And I feel like that helped prepare me to be the litigator that I am now.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Joe?
I feel the same way, especially about basic. I mean, I would stand there and see these other guys, they were going like crazy. And I said, they're just trying to get you through this and to teach you to follow orders. A lot of people go in and they've never really had to follow orders or be disciplined in any way. Some did fall out right in front of us and have breakdowns. Then I went on to tech school, and that was a little bit easier. Then from tech school, we went to we were assigned to our bases. That was an experience that I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like after going through basic and tech school. But when I got to Panama, I had a sponsor that meted me, took me around, introduced me to everyone. Everyone was became like your family, your brother. There were no really hard feelings anywhere. And we slept in open barracks. We had no walls between our beds or our rooms. There were no rooms except for the officers. And the bays in Panama, they didn't even have windows. They had big screened portions for walls, and it was open bay because it was so hot. We didn't have air conditioning. And then England, we actually had rooms when I got there. So everything was what got better, but the camaraderie was really terrific. I mean, like you say, you formed friendships that lasted for years afterwards. Of course, most of mine are gone now, but we had a really good time and looked out after one another.
Thank you for sharing that. It is absolutely right. I want to just kind of touch bases and a little bit on this tricks, because I think all of us experience that, even though I never thought the Air Force boot camp was going to be that tough. You know, we have inner service jokes. You know, I did talk to a recruiter and I said, why did you actually, somebody later on, why did we have to go through all that stuff? You know, the stuff with the towels. For me, it was a little difficult because also English was not my first language. It was Spanish. So sometimes I understood things and sometimes I didn't. And I missed a lot of the slang. Like somebody would tell me what's up, I would look up and go the ceiling, and they just thought it was the funniest thing because I didn't understand. He taught me something that I thought it was great. And he says, you know, those things teach you attention to detail, and they teach you to trust each other. They force you. And then you don't stop being an individual, but you stop seeing yourself above of the team. And because when you are in the service, then you are dependent on everybody else. Your life is dependent on everybody else. And paying attention to detail is, you know, you're as strong as your weakest link. So those are kind of the things that I have, you know, cherished from that and used later on. There is, you guys are enlisted, but I have also a different experience. I was an officer, and there was a different experience between being an officer and being an enlisted. You know, there was a lot of more responsibility. Going into what you guys taught, it did serve me, open doors, but it taught me to be a litigator. You have to be able to handle a lot of pressure. And I think the military prepares you for that. It teaches you to concentrate on what is important and what is needed, and not kind of be bogged down by details that have no immediate impact. So I think that actually helped me to become a better litigator and you know, to have a little more patience, because you know, you come across all kinds of people when you're in the military, and it teaches you to kind of, you know, that's part of your teammate. And, you know, you have a new assignment and you go in there and, you know that you're going to have to be in there. So you give it your all and live in the moment. So what would you be your thoughts for the people who are thinking about joining in? Do you have any advice for them or any thoughts?
I would say that I feel like having the military on my resume has always been a point that potential employers have brought up. I'm certain that it's opened certain doors from just shuffling through a pile of resumes. I think that employers really respect that. And it shows that you can commit to something like the military for 4 years or more, however long that you stay in. And I think that potential employers view that as what we've talked about here today, teaching discipline, commitment, teamwork, all of the above. I certainly think that one, if you want to have a future effect on your career prospects, that it could be extremely valuable. And then a second thing that I've talked to, I don't know how many, young people from my friends, kids who were, graduating high school and didn't know what they were going to do and thought maybe the military was the right thing. I think it's certainly a great option. Not everybody has to go straight to college or to go to college at all in order to be successful. And if, I mentioned that I felt like I was flailing about after that first year after high school, it was a great way to sort of solve that problem and teach all the things that we talked about here today. So like Joe said, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. And it's something that I, value very much about my past. Very proud of the fact that I did it.
Thank you so much. Everything you said is absolutely 1,000% right. Joe, do you have any thoughts about, that you want to share with people that may be thinking about joining?
I think the main thing is if you're considering going in, is to go in with a positive attitude. You need to just stick it out. You need to, hunker down and just do it. Regardless of what you're going through, you really need to pull your life together. And I think that gives you a great sense of purpose going into the military. I get very proud that I was in there and that I served my country. And I think it's a great thing for everybody. I just think everyone should do it.
Great. I too believe that everybody should do it. I think it's an opportunity. Nowadays, I actually think that is a duty and obligation that everybody, irrespective of your thoughts or station in life, should be part of, because we live in a democracy, and you have to fight for the rights, and that burden should be borne by everybody. And I would be remiss if I don't mention the military family, because when you serve, you're there. But you have people at home that are carrying the load without you. And those people need our help and need our recognition, because they may not be wearing the uniform, but they are carrying a huge emotional and financial load. And I think we should be thankful to those people, because they allow the people in the military to have the peace of mind to be able to serve. Because that's really tough, being away from your kid, being away from your spouse, being away from your family, or not having your spouse, not having your there for the key moments in life. What I tell everybody that's thinking about joining in, do it. It's a great opportunity. You're going to make lifelong friends. It's like every experience in life. Like I tell other kids, hey, join, travel. Or if you don't want to join, serve in another capacity where you learn those lessons. You don't have to join for 4 years. You can join as a reservist, but be part of that. Give it a chance. I want to thank each and every one of you, and I wanted to know if you have any other thoughts that you want to share with us and with the firm about being a veteran, or how that has affected your life. If you have any last thoughts about the topic.
My sincere gratitude to everybody else in the firm who has served our country. Thank you all for your service.
Yes, I think that, my heart goes out to everyone that served. It's a pleasure to be among those that did serve. I think it's a great thing for anybody that's contemplating.
Great. Well, I thank you for your time and your input. It was great sharing the stage with people that love their country and serve the country. To all those in the firm, I want to thank those who have served. And I want you guys to take a moment and remember the ones who have perished. They're not longer here. Go out there, visit. If you know a family member that lost their service, go out and help them and think of them, because they made the ultimate sacrifice so we can have the liberties that we have today. And I thank you for your time, and have a good day, everybody.